Hi, this is Kasian, and it's time for a weekly conference call at VectorspaceAI. We'll start with what's happening around the globe. Virus cases are increasing as we have been observing this week, and as we mentioned last week, they're spiking in several cases, and this is resulting in lockdowns. And people are trying to gauge the economic impact globally based on global unemployment and continued lockdowns and possibly an increased number of lockdowns. Despite all of that, the markets are steady but toppy. On the industry side, we're going to combine industry and crypto this time, these sections. We had a headline come across stating 5 machine learning methods crypto traders should know about. And this was interesting because it was published in CoinDesk and mentioned OpenAI's GPT-3 and NLP, and the fact that the crypto industry can benefit by analyzing or using NLP to analyze human language. We're looking at BTC holding steady at 11.7. Obviously, it's going to break through 12, and that could happen any day. ETH is at 378, and we're noticing sectorization. Subsectors being created in crypto, and this is kind of what we've been waiting for. We've been observing crypto for quite some time, and like everyone else, we've noticed that crypto does tend to move in lockstep with the bellwethers BTC and ETH, the overall market. But there are sectors beginning to break away, and this is very good for thematic basket generation. We're also observing a push for crypto ETFs. Not just BTC ETFs, but thematic crypto ETFs. That's where things are headed. So we're keeping a close eye on that because we are very well positioned to take advantage of that complete opportunity. If we look at what's happening internally at Vectorspace on the corporate side, we're going to include legal and HR here, and nothing is happening on the legal side. We don't have any concerns there, so that's good. That's always good. On the HR side, we're looking at new hires. These are data engineers, NLP engineers, NLU engineers. And we're also going to be engaging with new inquiries. These would be people inquiring related to job postings that we have, job recs related to data science and data engineering. We're going to be introducing the Dataset contest as a way to make a little money on the side for these groups, these individuals. And then, of course, we've got the Kaggle Dataset contest we've been talking with potential new hires about, and a few of the public in the data engineering and data sciences area. And everybody seems to be very excited about it. Moving on to the engineering, QA, product, and operations side. Everything is focused on the DTK, the Dataset Toolkit. And the Dataset Toolkit is undergoing quality assurance, QA, and testing still. It's very important for us to be able to cover a wide variety of development environments and operating systems, platforms, in terms of having the DTK installed with a maximum of 2 steps. The DTK will also be given to CERN and to every other customer that we have, active customer, and every potential customer and partner. So we want to make sure that it's nice and solid, commercial grade. We are also engaged with a few engineering and product efforts related to a new channel that we have called VXV Thematic Smart Baskets Tier 1. And this is where we'll be introducing a course, essentially. This is like an educational course in terms of how to design, create, build, construct, select your data sources, select contexts, and filter your smart baskets. This includes filtering based on market cap, the basics, the sell pressure, MACD, but also filtering based on other unique attributes, proprietary attributes. For example, scheduled insider sells and buys. We'll talk more about that later. On the customers, partners, and collaborators side, we have a pretty strict focus now on new data. We've been talking with them for, well, let's mention that we've been talking with them for over 2 years now. They've been able to see us grow. We've been able to see them grow. We've held a dialogue with them, and they have been able to watch the industry grow like we have as well, and adapt our offerings. And to this day, they do not have an offering like Vectorspace. They do not have NLP or NLU datasets, correlation matrix datasets. And we have signed a deal with them. They are now ready to execute on PR for us, and we'll talk more about that in a bit. On the S&P Global side, we've got a menu of information sources that they provide. We've been giving this to our customers. We're also providing this as a way for people to understand how thematic baskets can be filtered, how the components can be filtered, based on information S&P provides. S&P Global provides information to pretty much all the financial houses out there that provide information to the public. For example, Yahoo Finance. A lot of people today use a variety of services, but in general, you still find most people around the world globally using Yahoo Finance, and S&P Global provides data to Yahoo Finance in terms of fundamentals and a bit of quantitative data. But S&P provides data, much more data than they make much more data available than is available to the public. So that's what we're going to be introducing to the VXV Thematic Smart Baskets channel. And that channel, by the way, is not just an educational course. It's an area where people are not just going to learn about how to build smart baskets, but about how to trade and execute them, in addition to being automatic subscribers to the first tier of our investment club. We're also currently working on datasets for all other customers. There was a member of the public that asked about our relationship with Google, and that's likely because we had a relationship with Google based on a few experiments called Hangouts that Google was doing early on. And we thought it would be a good way to introduce Vectorspace into the world, but then the crypto markets crashed, and we actually decided not to work with Google at that time anymore, and we have yet to pick up our dialogue with them. Currently, we are not working with Google, but what we will be doing is working with some of their venture arms. We're also going to be on a hedge fund panel sponsored by Alpha Week. This is for AI hedge funds, and we're going to represent what we do for hedge funds and asset management companies on the NLP and NLU side. And Alpha Week also asked if we could produce a Trump versus Biden thematic basket. We're discussing that internally as a team, but at the same time, a lot of activity related to the elections is priced in. So that may not be a good idea. We'll continue to investigate that. On the sales and marketing side, again, new data is the focus there. We are concurrently, but not with as much focus, pushing in other areas, but we are also throttling based on being in parity with engineering. On the exchanges side, we're in a holding pattern, and that would be until we have one of our customers talking about us to the public. We thought it would be a good idea to wait on that. And another reason that is a good idea is when we are listed on a top tier exchange, that's really when we want to begin initiating or executing our large PR pipeline. On the IR, PR, and Marcom side, we have several irons in the fire, and they're white hot. They're hedged. We, at the same time, will not be allowing any buying on the rumor and selling on the news. And that means that out of any of these irons we have in the fire, We are not going to announce which one is going to be talking to the public first, but based on everything that we have unveiled to the public in our conference calls and everything we talk about on our public channels, everyone knows what our customer pipeline looks like, and that includes our revenue sharing dataset distribution pipelines. And each one is a PR. And we also, let's connect back to the VXV Thematic Smart Baskets Tier 1 channel, where we are producing educational content related to the construction of smart baskets. Every nice performing smart basket will be showcased in a PR, along with their performance. And it's important to recognize that we produce close to about 150 baskets, sometimes up to 2 or 3 a week, in terms of the ones that are that we can predominantly showcase. And that gives us a large amount of PR opportunity. And this is something that we wanted to mention. It's part of our strategy, and we're going to unveil our strategy as time goes on. And you'll notice we never unveil our complete strategy all at once. Everything is just the tip of the iceberg now, and we do that partly for competitive reasons. Next, we've got questions from the trader base. Our first question is, what mechanisms are in place to stop the team from dumping tokens on the open market? I don't believe this would be the case, but it will be something many new investors will contemplate. We are not in the business of being penny players. Number one, we're not in it for the pennies, and it would make no sense for us to. It makes no sense for us to focus on the little money, not focus on the big money. The little money would be the pennies. The big money would be triple digits. Doesn't make any sense to do anything else other than that. Liquidating equity or tokens at these levels is insanity. And the only time that we do that is when we need to raise capital in the smallest possible tranches. The next question is, by the way, we also understand the value of VXV, so why in the world would we do that? Makes no sense. The next question is there any public info or data backing up or just explaining where the revenue projections in the white paper come from? Or that's only internal? Is there anything about the process of reaching these numbers that has been made public, or the numbers? Well, you'll note that most startups don't unveil their internal intricacies of how they are generating revenue. Not even public companies do that. And that's not something we'll be doing. We follow best of breed approaches. And what you're referencing there is not the white paper. That is what's called a deck or a pitch deck. There's a difference. Most every deck has revenue projections. And another key point is that datasets are worth millions and sometimes billions. Google operates on an entire dataset called the web, for example. Datasets can be more refined, like the ones that we operate on, and can be worth still tens of millions of dollars. We have provided information on that. That is in our copy, in our documentation. And we are not in the business of selling datasets for tens of millions of dollars. We are in the business of selling datasets per update, per dataset source, per column, per row, per context, per dataset permutation, with hundreds of billions of datasets. If datasets make you money, then you will pay for a dataset. It's that simple. The next question is, how is the projection going in reference to the revenue model? Are we in year 0 now, based on the current outlook? How far are we likely away from hitting a run rate which resembles year 1? Those are good questions. And this is actually a good time to reference the fact that we have been delayed, like every company. We've been delayed by a downturn in the crypto markets and a pandemic and a couple of other things. And that means that our year one projections have not started yet. When we first started Vectorspace, our year one projections were gated on capital. And the crypto markets took a downturn, so we weren't able to raise capital. Well, we are still raising in small tranches right now. And the best thing for us to do is preserve the value, the equity of this company for the shareholders, token holders, and stakeholders. And one way to preserve value, of course, is not giving away all your equity at low price levels. But also, to really understand what it is that you're offering to the public and how valuable it is. And to know what the public is willing to pay for in terms of subscriptions to datasets, in terms of paying 99 cents on the minute with either fiat or VXV. Now, in terms of revenue projections, we can also say that you will not find a revenue projection in a pitch deck of any startup in the history of startups that has been spot on correct. They've all been adjusted based on market conditions and a bunch of other things, and they can be adjusted up or down. So the short answer is we are just at the beginning. The next question is, I am hoping to be a customer and an investor, but as a customer, being able to read these data sets can be quite challenging. Is there any development on the UI side for the average retail customer? Well, yes, there is, and we call those thematic baskets and thematic smart baskets, the ones that are filtered, generating more alpha. And if you'd like, you can certainly join that channel. All you have to do is message us on the main channel. Now, the dataset toolkit can also be used by an individual. It's a little more complicated, but the thematic smart baskets are a way for an individual to simply receive a list of components, assets, cryptocurrencies, stocks, or a combination that they can purchase. The next question is, for example, it starts out with, for example, 99 cents buys more than one token today, and hopefully less in the future. One presumes it's the proportional number of tokens related to the market price of the token, which gives access to datasets. How is this achieved? As the market price fluctuates, smart contracts, time, locked mechanism to preserve price value. Or is it all manually done by the sales team? Another good question. And the pricing, the answer is short. The pricing is set by an algorithm. If you want any details on that, we can certainly provide those. It's a matter of pricing based on customer demand and an API. The next question is VXV teams. Token balance will increase due to the importance of the tokens now and going into the future, as they are too valuable. Does the VXV team have any limitations, internally or otherwise, that prevents any buybacks not linked to revenue? For example, prop trading not allowed. Okay, the answer is no, we will not. We won't put any limitations on the buybacks that we engage in unless regulators do. And we don't see that happening because that's not happening in the traditional markets either. Not quite. So nothing will prevent us from buying back VXV. And we are also the longest term holders because, again, we understand the value. The next question is, what is the number of paying current customers today, and how many tokens have been bought off the market since October 1st by way of example? We'll publish these numbers after engineering deliverables have been met, and we'll also announce tokens bought off the open market if our customers allow us to do that. So we'll time that right, and we will be doing it, but it will be based on whether or not customers, certain customers, want the public to know. The next question is it accurate to say that the earliest publicity from customers other than CERN is thus end October into November? Yes. The next question is, how can I access datasets now that I have some VXV? What are the steps? What does the signal info look like? To follow the steps, you can join our VXV Thematic Smart Baskets Tier 1 channel and message us as well for that on our main channel. Now on to strategy, our last section here, and we'll talk a little bit about dataset insights. We'll talk a little bit about enterprise versus institution. An enterprise company is a company made up of lots of employees, groups, budgets, and they service either consumers or other enterprise companies. And an institution, in our case, would be an asset management company. It could be a large hedge fund. Or it could be a scientific organization like CERN or Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. When you look at retail versus consumer, and the reason we're going over this is we've been asked, what's the difference? Retail, when you look at retail, it's usually used in the financial markets related to financial products, instruments that are used by people to make a little money. And when you look at consumer, they have similarities. A good example would be the Robinhood app. You've got a retail investor using the Robinhood app, but at the same time they're a consumer because they're using the software product, the app. So consumers usually are ones that are using software products built by a company or a group somewhere. And a retail product would be, in our case, defined by an instrument or a solution, a system, a method, like smart baskets being provided to the financial public. And we'll be discussing more details related to these and our thematic smart baskets on the channel there. And I wanted to go over a few details of what we're going to be what we've already talked about on the thematic smart baskets channel, and that would be forward testing. So many of you have heard of back testing. It would be important to get familiar with forward testing. Forward testing is when you're just doing live testing, either with synthetic data or real money. But essentially that's what we're doing on that channel. We are forward testing our thematic baskets and thematic smart baskets. And speaking of thematic baskets and thematic smart baskets, there's a difference between thematic baskets and thematic smart baskets. Thematic baskets would be unfiltered. Thematic smart baskets would be filtered. And there are a million different ways you can filter a basket. You can filter it based on capital allocation. You can re-rank the components. You can separate them into ones that you'd like to short versus go long. You can separate them into or re-rank based on the flow or circulating supply. There are all kinds of ways you can re-rank for achieving or optimizing for alpha. And that's when those baskets become smart. And there's one more thing that is done to make them smart, and that is adding a human in the loop. And that means market researchers engaged in curation of the baskets. We'll also be discussing how to break down a PR. When you look at an event, it's usually described by human language. And that means a press release or a news story somewhere. And you can submit the URL to this news story or this press release into a Vectorspace thematic smart basket product and receive a list of assets or cryptos or stocks related to that press release. But we'll also be discussing how to break a press release down in terms of what to look for inside of a press release to generate a basket, generate a theme, or use as a theme. You might have a description of an actual drug name, for example, as opposed to using the entire press release. And we'll be discussing creating networks of baskets for better capital deployment and allocation. And risk management. We've had 3 events on the channel. First, AMD, and this is the headline, AMD is set in talks to buy rival Xilinx for $30 billion. Now that's an event. That means that stocks related to Xilinx are likely to go up. That would be a thematic basket and a thematic smart basket after filters have been applied. There's also a public company by the name of Fastly, and they have gotten a huge haircut. I think it was a 30% haircut or something like that. They are not doing too well, and contagion spreads. This means that stocks related to Fastly would be a great way to achieve alpha or get some alpha from that trade on Fastly without trading Fastly itself. The third event we had was Ernst & Young, and Ernst & Young has been involved with Wirecard and WeWork and a handful of other companies that have not done too well, to put it lightly. So we've created a thematic basket related to Ernst & Young and companies related to Ernst & Young, and we're going to see how that does. We did that on Friday, and we're observing the performance now on that channel. We'll also be discussing tips from basic filtering to re-ranking and stuff like that, like I already mentioned, insider buys versus sells, and we'll be talking about every piece of information that we have access to create filters provided by S&P Global. And as we mentioned, every basket that's worthy will be published, and that's a great way for exposure. And new data, when we first started with new data, they had just under 50 funds. Then they had 60, then 70, now they have 75. And we'll be presenting to each of these funds based on the way new data has everything set up. So this will be very interesting. It'll be a nice way for us to achieve PR, because we know that a lot of these funds will not want the public knowing about what they're doing with us. However, new data will. And finally, there was a headline titled NASDAQ Women in Technology. Niharika Sharma, Senior Software Engineer, NASDAQ's Machine Intelligence Lab. And we'll be interfacing with NASDAQ's Machine Intelligence Lab. They do data science there, and they have a need for data sets. We expect a convergence between the traditional markets and the crypto markets, and we see it happening now, not just on the ETF side, but in the way that traders on the traditional market side are wading into crypto, and the way that public companies today are taking positions in crypto. This has been a pre-recorded call. If you have any questions, feel free to post them online. Otherwise, I will see you next week, same time.